Hey folks, we're moving on to section 7.7 here, looking at aggregate processing. And the idea with aggregate processing is that we want to look at a bunch of different rows at one time, aggregate them together, and do something. Right? We're going to bunch them all together to do either a count, a min, a max, a sum, or an average of particular values. So a count is saying how many values are there? Are there not null values? So if I wanted to know, like, hey, how many products do I sell? I can say select count, and then in parentheses you have to tell it what are we counting, and generally you give it like the primary key here, so it would be p code from product, so it's the count of that primary key field from the product table, and this should tell us how many products we have in our table. And then you can add any sorts of where clauses in here if you want, any sorts of restrictions. It's perfectly fine. We can say like how many items do we have that cost a little bit of money. We can look at how many products do we have by a particular vendor, right, with these aggregates. We got lots of fun options here. Counts are fun. We can look at, say, like the min or the max price of given products. Right? If we can ever get our query to return here, we'll look at that. Oh, okay, there we go. So we have 16 products here in our product table. Great. So let's look at maybe the min of the max price. Let's select the min of the p price and the max of the p price. And how about the average? So it's AVG for average of the p price. And sum of price probably doesn't make a whole lot of sense, so we'll skip that one. We'll just say from product. We'll see if we can get the min, the max, and the average of our products here that we sell. See if that one will run for us here. Just thinking about it. Finish here? No, I didn't finish it. It's all right. We have some more resources here. I can make that go any faster. Come on. Maybe it'll do. It just has to render a couple boxes. This is painful to watch. I'm sorry. All right, we can work on another one. While it's doing that one here, maybe we want to say, hey, let's look at how much customers actually owe us. So we want to select the sum of my customer balance from customer. So this will sum every value in balance together to find out, okay, how much in total are we owed from our customers. So we can do some cool options here. You can sum arithmetic as well. So we can say, hey, sum, I want to do my quantity on hand times the price, right? We looked at, hey, what was the value of this product we had on hand? We can get the sum of all of that. Say, okay, well, how much product is sitting in our warehouse now? Right? How much is it all worth if we're able to sell it all? So that's the first set of aggregate. The next set of aggregate functions we can do, which is super cool, is we can start grouping columns to be aggregated. So instead of saying, hey, aggregate everything, I want to aggregate by a given grouped condition, which is really cool. So let's see if we can get this to run here. Just thinking about it. Maybe. It's not going to run. Oh, it's so sad. So if we wanted to say, okay, I want the average price of my products, but I want to say the average for each vendor, right? I want to group together by vendor and then get the average that. I want to aggregate for that. Or if I want to know, hey, how many products do I have for each vendor, right? We could say I want to select the vendor code and the count of the P code from the product table. Group by is my clause here. Oh, there we go. We get min, max, and average. We're going to group by the V code. So group by says when we're doing an aggregate, put these together and then aggregate individual groups one at a time. So let's give this a run. See if we can get this one to load for us. So we should see for each vendor then the count of the products that we have in our product table for that vendor. Okay, so we can combine we can aggregate on the thing that we're grouping by. So we use that to say, okay, let's do that. And you can have multiple levels of grouping too, which is interesting. You can group by multiple values. Now, doesn't it's going to work a little bit funky sometimes. So if you have, for each one of the first item, you have multiple values in the second, right? Each one will be grouped separately, right? So if we're grouping by, hey, I want the vendor area code and then something else, right? And maybe I've got multiple vendors in the same area code. I could group by area code and then I could group by something else. Or if we want to look at, hey, let's group by state, right? And then group by area code maybe. Right? So anyone who's in the same state, great. And then we can group them in the area code. And look at that. So we got our products here. Oh, and we have 2 products without a vendor. I was wrong. I thought we needed to have that in here. This shows what I know about the sample data. So group by is super powerful because it lets us change how we're aggregating, which is really cool. And you can add in order bys, that's fine. We can add in where clauses, right? Any sorts of restrictions along with this as well. We've got lots of cool options. Now, the where clause is a little bit funny because we can't say, hey, where the count of Pico, where an aggregate is something. So I could say, okay, let me count how many products where the cost is more than 10. Great, that'll restrict all of the products that cost, and then we will aggregate them here. But if we want to say, okay, I only want where the count is more than a given number here, we're going to add a new piece here to our clause. It is the having clause. We'll say having count of P code greater than, 2. Let's find all the vendors where we have more than 2 products. And again, you can add the order bys after that if you want. So it's a select from where grouped by having order by. Right? The list of keywords that we can use, we're doing almost all of them here. We don't have the where. We could add a where, and then we could add the order by, and then we'd have all of them. And we can say, hey, let's only count where we have expensive products, and we sell more than 2 of them, or any sorts of fun options that we want to when we're looking at our data. So there's all sorts of cool things we can do with selects. See if we can get this to finish running here for us. Maybe. All right, still running. I'm sorry. This is super slow and awkward. Should not be taking this long just to render a result. That's really unfortunate. I'll try a different browser, and maybe it'll be faster in a different browser, but Firefox is usually pretty decent. So I'm kind of bumming here. Oh, there it goes. Just finished. All right, awesome. So we have 3 vendors, right, that sell more than, we have more than 2 products, right? More than 2 means 3 or more here. Okay? So we're able to use the aggregate functions to count, to min, to max, to average, and then we can group by to say, okay, at each level now, for each of these groupings, do the aggregate thing, or we can include the having clause, where it's essentially the where clause for an aggregate function. Okay? So let's look at subqueries in the next section coming up.